from having very quiet positions. In fact, it don't do anything. It's really nice. It also can be very poisonous, especially getting e4 in. This is why the knight's on f6, bishop f5, e4 is deferred a lot. So it's sort of like a reverse London system here with h6, put the bishop on h7, control the e4 square, and you try to play an e5 at some point way later in the game. This is Magnus you're playing here. After h6, Magnus on the move, thinking about what to do. Maybe trying to make it interesting. Maybe taking queen b3, you have bishop g2, maybe try to play e4, bishop d2, knight b2, castles, e4. There's lots of ideas.
Yeah, and I feel like h6 isn't the most useful move. It looks like a Catalan, but with the bishop on f5 rather than c8 and playing h6. So Magnus, he's trying to figure out how to punish this. He knows that this is not a standard sequence. It's rare territory for both players, but Magnus, he's not certain. So I am very curious if after this big thing, he'll just play the simple, straightforward bishop g2, develop the castle, get the king out of there, or if he'll pick up the gauntlet and say, let's go for it. Let's go for b7. That is a target because the bishop is not home anymore.
Absolutely. Queen b3 is definitely playable because usually you would be queen b3 or queen b6, but you can't do that here. So it is something to really pay attention to. Queen b3, how do you respond to queen b3 is the question. Queen c8, diagonal d5 hangs. So like queen b3 is really strong here, actually.
I think it's a thematic sacrifice. Queen b3, knight c6. Please go ahead, take my b7 pawn. The knight jumps out to b4 and into c2. But the eval bar is suggesting that this is maybe slightly better for black, complicated, and that's scary if you're Magnus. Brandon likely played h6 with the knowledge that this is going to be a decent try for black. The queen over here, there might just be a repetition, but we see the last three moves: bishop g2, c6, and now queen b3. Please play queen b6. I'm Magnus Carlsen. I'm the best endgame player of all time.
You sure you want to go that route? Right. You sure you want to do this, big fella? Are you sure? I give you one last chance, right, to not do this. I mean, it's just tough, right? Facing any game against Magnus is going to be one of the hardest things you ever do in your life, but it is also a challenge and you can learn as well. So, looks like you have that. c5, queen takes b3, takes, and you play b4, b5. You get this a lot from the Carol compositions in the exchange variation, but pawn is on. There's usually no c. Wait, it's a little different.
It's an improved version for white, right? Like, you just take and boom, boom. You can't even stop it.
b5, right?
Because if you play a6, the problem is your rook is hanging. So you play knight d7 and b5 still happens because you can't take with the a pawn, your rook is loose. And this kind of position is exactly what white wants. It's not a winning advantage. You see, it's only half a pawn, but the position is just so much easier for white to play, gaining space. And so that's why after c5, Brandon might play queen c7, after bishop f4, drop the queen to c8. It's very common defense.
It is difficult. It is difficult. You are under fire here. Queen b7. Rook e1 is played.
Does Brandon have any other? His queen's under attack. If he brings his knight in, you just take it. You can't make those moves slowly.
It all happens, and it's there, and it's on the board. He's gonna take it, play knight d6, and then just gobble up the pawns. Let's have a better position. h6 is hanging.
You know what it's like? It's like when you're a younger brother and your big brother just hits on you. That's exactly what's to happen.
You don't evolve.
Yeah, right? Like, I can't do anything. I'm punching. I can't get out of this. And that's what's going to happen with knight d6 and then rook e7. You can't bring a rook to e8. You are just absolutely frozen.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, he brings it backwards instead of forwards. And he just ices it up to g4. So Magnus says, all right, I'll just take the material. You take on h5, I take on g4. And Brandon's doing a pretty decent job, I might say, because he wants to protect this pawn, go after this one later. But Magnus is now up a pawn for the time being.
Absolutely, he's up a pawn, and of course, I mean, you already hate going to endgames with Magnus. Now you down a pawn in the endgame against Magnus. It's just very difficult. It's a very, very difficult situation here. Magnus is playing some great chess, and Brandon is under time. Now, of course, you cannot give up here. He's not going to give up. Brandon's not going to give up, but it is a very difficult time situation. Playing Magnus down a pawn in a game that is just worse right now.
That move apparently was not the right continuation. He had to take on d5. Now that pawn can go up to the d6 square, push your passed pawns. Magnus first brings his knight. That push is not going anywhere. This knight can jump into e5, and the rook can slam down on e7. I feel like it's all about this passed pawn on d5, and Brandon has no time to consider anything.
Yeah, this is a nice c4. Look at the nice